Today, there are more millionaires in the United States than there are guys with six-pack abs, which is why I want to break down the 6 key things that I did to lose 65 pounds in 6 months and see my abs for the very first time. Everyone on planet Earth has abs, but for the most part, those abs are covered by layers, sometimes multiple layers of body fat. When I was in my early 20s, I started to realize that I was missing something. I had a lot of muscle, I'd built some size, but I just couldn't see my abs. And since I had never seen my abs growing up, I was typically a skinny fat kid who was really athletic. I never had abs, and so I thought to myself, am I even capable of having abs? So I went on a journey of losing body fat and seeing my abs for the first time, and I learned some really key lessons along the way. It's also why I'm so passionate today, helping guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, in some cases, see their abs for the first time or get their abs back after not seeing them for quite some time, using sustainable and proven methods. And if you're serious about transforming your body, you can get information about how I do things below this video. But let's start with the first thing that was vital when it came to seeing my abs for the first time. And this was really a mindset around how it's gonna probably take you longer than you expect to see your abs for the first time. You see, especially in today's day and age where we see ripped people all over the internet, all over social media all the time, we start to think, man, this must be easy, right? It must be simple, and it must not take that long. I just need to suffer for a short period of time, and I'll be able to see my abs. And the truth is, even if you do suffer, it's probably gonna take you way longer than you think to drop the body fat, especially the belly fat. Because the belly fat is the most stubborn fat on most guys' body. If you didn't grow up ripped, if you aren't naturally super lean, just be prepared for a little longer of a journey ahead. Now, this is not a death sentence. It's not a bad thing, right? It's going to teach you the key principles that will not only get you the abs that you want, but will teach you how to keep them forever. I'll never forget, the first time I lost a significant amount of body fat over a long period of time. That 6-month window may not seem like a long period of time, but I did things an extreme way, right? So even though I was doing things very unsustainable, I was putting processes in place that I know I could never do again, I still took about 3 months longer to get the 6-pack than I thought I would. I thought if I just do this 90-day stretch of being super rigid, super strict, not messing up once, working out twice a day, doing cardio twice a day, eating less than a female who's half my size to try to get this body fat off, it's only going to take me 90 days because that's what I had been told. That's what I read in bodybuilding magazines at the time. But boy, was I wrong. I got into it, and about 90 days in, I still couldn't see my abs. And so the frustration started to kick in, but luckily I had some kind of moxie, some kind of drive to where I said, okay, I'm just going to keep going. And ultimately it took double the amount of time. And keep in mind, this was doing things the extreme route. It took 6 months to see my abs. Now, it didn't take 6 months to get super shredded. I actually had to keep going after that and actually do a whole bodybuilding prep. But I saw visible abs for the first time after dropping 65 pounds of fat. And if you do the math, that's a little over 10 pounds a month, which is a lot of weight to lose every single month. This is doing things the wrong way. So imagine doing things the right way. Whatever number you have in your head for how long it's going to take you to get ripped, I would at a bare minimum double that. Now, this is not to discourage you from getting ripped. This is to encourage you to do it. Because when you do things the right way, yes, it might take longer. And inside of our program, we teach you how to get there faster. We teach you how to be aggressive for certain periods of time to get over some of the humps that come with getting leaner. But ultimately, we want to teach you how to keep your results forever. What's the point of working so hard, whether it's 6 months or a year or 2 years, only to lose the results once you get there? That's no way to go about life. Imagine if you worked your butt off for a decade to gain wealth, to build a huge business, to be able to give back to the world, to be able to exercise good values with your money and do all these things you want to do, only to lose it right after. That would stink. And I know a lot of people have done that because they get rich quick and then they don't know how to keep the money, so they lose it right away. You don't want to do that when it comes to fat loss. You want to get lean as fast as you can, but with sustainable methods so you keep the results for the rest of your life. Another thing too that I learned along the way is we don't want to avoid training our abs. When you actually train your 6-pack the same way you would train your biceps or your back or your chest with resistance, right? With actual weights, and you put some tension on the abs, those ab muscles, they do respond, not as fast as your biceps or your shoulders, but they do build more thickness. So as you drop body fat, your abs start to poke through a little bit sooner, actually in some cases a lot sooner, when you have thicker, more developed ab muscles. Now I know some people out there are like, don't train your abs heavy because your waist is gonna get bigger. I wouldn't say your waist gets bigger if you train your abdominal muscles the right way. Yeah, sure, if you're putting a ton of resistance on your obliques, which is the side muscles on your waist, yeah, your waist might get a little bit bigger. But I think the juice is worth the squeeze. You know, if you're already someone who doesn't have ab definition, I mean, what do you have to lose? Are you gonna go out and compete in the, the smallest waist for men competition? I mean, most guys aren't doing that. At the end of the day, you just wanna look good in a shirt, you wanna feel good with your shirt off, and that's really it. After that, it's like all cherries on top. So no one's walking around with a tape measure going, hey, you have abs, but let me check your waist size just to make sure. Like, come on, dude. No one does that. So training your ab muscles at the very minimum with some resistance will help them show up a little earlier than someone who doesn't. If you want to throw in some oblique training, I strongly encourage you to do so. I think strong obliques are going to help you be more athletic, help you avoid injury, and help you be more powerful with other exercises. So the lesson and takeaway here is to train your abs with resistance 2 to 3 times per week. Just like I recommend most small muscle groups like your shoulders, your biceps, your triceps, your calves, you can get away with training those a little more frequently because they tend to recover a little faster than some of the bigger muscle groups. So don't skip ab training. It's gonna help your abs show up a lot faster. It's a lesson I learned as I was getting lean. Now let's switch gears and talk about nutrition for a second, because I know nutrition is a big elephant in the room when it comes to seeing your abs for the first time. Mastering nutrition is probably the biggest Achilles heel for most guys. So what I found is that we can use a lot of different tools when it comes to getting lean. You don't have to stick to one diet methodology in order to get dialed in. Yes, I think overall you need to have a philosophy, and my philosophy is really simple. Calories, protein. Get those 2 things right, the rest will kind of sort itself out. But this doesn't mean I don't have periods of time where I coach the guys in our coaching program with, by the way, if you're dead serious about making a permanent change to your physique and how you look and feel, you can get information below. But I'm really passionate about helping guys understand how to use different variations of nutrition as they get leaner. So we might utilize fasting. I know there's some really cool guys that I'm friends with who use fasting as their primary mechanism for helping guys drop fat, and it's a great tool. Strongly encourage you to try it out. Some guys that I'm friends with are passionate about low carb, right? Like low carb is gonna get you dialed in. I personally look at all these little ways of eating and say, these are all tools that we might use at different stages of the game. For example, low carb could be a great way to get the ball rolling. You're someone who struggles to control insulin, struggles to control appetite. You're just not very insulin, you're insulin resistant. In other words, you're carrying a lot of body fat. You prefer high fat foods. You enjoy them. You just feel better. Cool. It's probably not the way we're going to eat forever, but it might be a phase that we go through. I even take guys who love carbs through small, short phases of low carb, because going low carb does something that most guys don't realize. It makes you drop a ton of water. So if you're struggling mentally and you're like, man, I just need to prove to myself that I can lose weight, I'll put a responsible low carb phase in for maybe 2 to 4 weeks just to prove, hey, you can drop weight. Sometimes it's water weight. And you might look a little sharper because you're not carrying as much water during a low carb phase. But long term, we all know you like bread, you like pasta, you like fruits, you like all the carbs. So we got to include them in a responsible way, of course, in your long-term plan. Same with fasting. I fast pretty much every day. I'm fasted right now, making this video. It's almost the middle of the day. But I don't abuse fasting, on an ongoing basis. Some people believe in this constant fast where every week you're not eating 3 or 4 days. I personally think that's a recipe for disaster. I think it loses its effectiveness. And yeah, if you absolutely enjoy it and that's just how you live your life, cool. I think a better approach is a daily shorter fast with the occasional longer fast. But the lesson here is don't get sucked into thinking there's only one way to do things. I think the overarching theme is get your calories right, get your protein right. And yes, clean up your food choices. Avoid a ton of high processed food. Stick to one ingredient whole foods as much as you can. But use these different methods at different times and places along the way to help blast through plateaus, help get you some more motivation, help sharpen your physique, and ultimately you become a well-rounded machine where you're like, I know how to do everything. I know how to do high carb, low carb, fasting, not fasting. I know how to eat out. I know how to go carnivore. I know how to do it all because I've tried it all responsibly, knowing that I can transition out of anything that's too extreme at any given time. So the next thing is cardio. This is a huge lesson I learned as I was dropping fat and getting my abs for the first time. I started out that phase doing 20 minutes of cardio once a day. And by the time I was done, I was doing 2 hours of cardio a day. And the mistake I made that I don't want you to make, and this is huge, don't fall into the trap of doing a ton of medium intensity cardio. Medium intensity cardio is that like high zone 2, zone 3, almost like jogging, running at a decent pace to try to lose fat. Your body tends to adapt that cardio really, really quickly. I would err on the side of doing mostly super low intensity cardio at higher volume amounts. So what this looks like is walking and increasing your steps over time. Because walking, for most people at least, is not too taxing. You go for a walk around the block, you're not coming back exhausted, right? Unless it's like, borderline hell temperatures outside where the humidity and heat are just exhausting you and being in the sun is gonna zap your energy. If you go for a quick brisk walk, you're not coming back tired. Your body also doesn't seem to adapt to that cardio very fast. It tends to be pretty consistent with how many calories it burns, and the ability for your body to drop fat stays relatively the same. Versus if you're throwing a bunch of like medium intensity cardio where your body's having to work and adapt, over time the metabolism is going to down regulate, right? So what I see from guys is just the effectiveness of doing that cardio goes down over time. So I would use that cardio, in bits and pieces. I wouldn't immediately jump into doing like the stair mill at a fast pace, for 20 minutes a day and then doing 30 minutes a day and then having to constantly increase, because once again, that's your valuable time that you're having to do other things where you could be being more productive in other parts of your life. And you can get frustrated, right? Like what used to help you drop a pound a week now requires double the effort. It's just not a great approach when it comes to cardio. Instead, like I said, focus on the low intensity, and then what I would drip in here and there is some higher intensity cardio. So getting your heart rate up for short bursts, 20 seconds, 30 seconds into that zone 4, zone 5 before resting. The body has a much harder time adapting to high intensity interval training. But once again, you don't need to do any of that. Just stick to moderate activity levels consistently done for a long period of time, and cardio for the most part is going to have its box checked. Now, I wouldn't be a smart and helpful fat loss coach and transformation mentor if I didn't talk about alcohol. And I'm not here to tell you to stop drinking, because I haven't stopped drinking. I still drink alcohol from time to time. I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink all the time, but alcohol can be one of the big factors when it comes to fat loss, and probably not for why you think, right? Most people think alcohol, ooh, it's this big scary toxin that's gonna like destroy my metabolism and tell my body just to store everything as fat. And while there is some truth to some of that, meaning yes, it is a toxin, yes, it does slow down the fat burning process, and in some cases brings it to a complete halt. What I found to be the problem with alcohol, especially for the guys that I work with who have high stress lives, right? They have a lot of people that they're in charge of. They have, big deals they're working on. They run big companies, or they have a high level sales position, or they're in finance, right? So they're managing a lot of money. And they have families too. They travel for sports, for their kids. They go on social trips. Alcohol is always kind of lurking in the background for a number of reasons. Typically though, it's to relieve stress, right? So it's after a long week. You want to go on a date night with the spouse and have a few glasses of wine, and then that turns into like 4 glasses. And then what does that turn into? Well, typically it turns into eating too much, right? You lose your impulse control. So alcohol is typically associated with the intake of higher calorie foods in bigger quantities, and also, arguably the biggest factor, poor sleep. So you go out and drink, you eat too much, you go home, you pass out, your sleep quality is shot, you wake up the next day hungover, or at least less on your game, and what does that lead to? Once again, less self-control, less willpower, less energy to go to the gym, less motivation. And all of a sudden, 2 days, 3 days go by, and you're not on your game. And you wonder why fat loss becomes hard. It's not the alcohol necessarily. It's not that one little factor. It's what it leads to. So this is not me telling you you have to give up alcohol. What I would suggest is having a really rock solid strategy around alcohol. Typically what I suggest is bookending your alcohol with a day before you're gonna drink, having a little more strict of a day, higher activity day. The day you drink, definitely have high activity. And then the day after you drink, have a game plan. How are we going to get back on track? What are we going to do? right? Typically, I would say get up in the morning and force yourself to do a light workout. You know, drink a ton of water, take some electrolytes, but get yourself back in the game mentally and physically as fast as you can. And just know that, hey, you might be willing to sacrifice a day or two to have some life enjoyment that comes from alcohol. That's up to you. But that will slow the process down, and just be okay with it. Accept it and either do it or change. That's the whole lesson here. Now, I'm super passionate about helping guys enjoy life while making a change that they never thought possible when it comes to their body. You know, I work with really smart, hardworking family men who have a strong value system, and ultimately the one part of their life that they haven't been able to find discipline in is their fitness. And we change all that by incorporating things like date nights where you can have wine, incorporating burgers and beers, and feeling like a normal person when you go to events with friends and family, but doing it in a way that serves you. So you can wake up the day after and get right back on track. Or you can look at it and go, this is just part of the plan. I don't have to sacrifice my social life, my family life, my work life, the things I have to do to be the man I am in order to get in shape. So if you're serious about making that change, if you want to change your body and how you take care of yourself and how you look, feel, and perform, there's information below that you can explore our program, some freebies. Just check those out if you're super serious about making a change today. The last thing I'll say, and this is a big one, is I like to use longer fasts. I learned this when I really got into maintaining my six-pack, and I wanted to have more enjoyment on the weekends. The way I would structure my week is I would eat pretty strict Monday through Friday, and then I would ramp up the calories, and I would also include some treat meals on the weekend where my calorie level was much higher than during the week. And the way I would offset this is from Sunday night to Monday night, I wouldn't eat food. Really, that's that simple. I just have a 24-hour fast to start my week. During the day on Monday, I'm super busy, super productive, doing work stuff, filming videos, writing content, helping clients, getting my team ready for the week, doing all the things that go into running a company. So my mind really wasn't worried about food. So I would drink sparkling water, I would drink electrolytes, I'd drink a diet drink here and there, no calories during the day, and then at night I'd have a big filling meal, something like a big steak with some potatoes and a big salad, probably 800 calories at the most. And that big deficit that I would create on Monday by fasting for 24 hours would reset my week. I'd be pretty strict Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd go back to having some higher calories, and I would repeat the process. This really helped me dial in my fat loss, number one, but also when I transitioned out of fat loss into maintenance, it helped me continue down the path of keeping my physique lean, muscular, and in shape. Now, this may work for you, it may not, but it might give you some ideas on how you don't have to have the same routine every single day. You can look at your big picture week and adjust things based off your needs, and longer fasts can be a really quick and easy way to offset some higher calorie days or eating that takes place on the weekend or whenever it happens to be in your life. So I hope today gave you some eye-opening ideas on how to get your six-pack for the first time, how I did it, some of the things I did that I wouldn't do again, and how I proceed from there and how I've learned lessons over the years. Because nowadays, I stay pretty lean year-round. I can see my abs year-round. Never thought I'd be able to say that as a kid in his early 20s who had never seen a six-pack. So if I can do it, you can too. But the thing is this, time's ticking. Life is moving fast. So it's up to you to make it count. If you're serious about making that permanent change, check out some of the resources that we have below this video. But until then, my name is Josiah Novak with thetruetransformation.com. I'll talk to you on the next video. Peace.